It is sad this man is not known and doesn't even form a footnote in history. His name was Rudolph Sharp and he was my grandfather. I want to tell you a true story about a boy who went to sea aged 15 and rose to the rank of captain in one of the world's most prestigious shipping companies, Cunard. His name was Rudolph Sharp and he was my grandfather. Cunard ships were taken over during World War II and made part of the war effort, and he then became the captain of the worst and second worst maritime disasters in British history. The worst was the Lancastria, the second worst the Lusitania, and nobody knows their names, where everybody knows the name of the Titanic. When the Titanic sank, she took down 1,500 people. When the Lancastria sank, she took down 6,000. The significance of the sinking of the Lancastria was that she was sent to bring back men abandoned at Dunkirk. Churchill was pressured by his general in France to save thousands of men stranded facing an advancing German army. To leave these men in France would have risked their lives, and France was on the brink of capitulation. The war in Europe was lost, and these men were needed back in England. The reason Churchill resisted bringing these men back put a lie to the story that he had told the British people that no man was left behind at Dunkirk, whereas in fact 150,000 were left behind. Before the sun rose on the morning of 17 June, Rudolph Sharp brought his ship in close to the coast of Saint-Nazaire. It was a fine sunny day with clear skies. She was in the company of other passenger vessels and Royal Navy ships. While Sharp stood on the bridge waiting for orders, he was approached by a Royal Navy vessel. The commander of the ship came on board and spoke to Sharp. He told him that very soon tenders would start to arrive and he should take on as many people as possible. Sharp asked about the legal limit and would he get an escort. The officer ignored the first question and told him he would get an escort. Then Sharp asked the obvious question, is France about to surrender? This question was also ignored. When the men embarked, they were greeted at the doors of the ship by stewards in full uniform handing out tickets. These tickets were like raffle tickets with two parts, and one part was held by the stewards for counting numbers and the other was given to the men for cabin numbers. About 2 p.m, Sharp asked his second in command to go and talk to the stewards and find out how many men had come on board. The stewards had told him they ran out of tickets at 6,000 and the tenders were keeping coming. Sharp was alarmed as his legal limit was 3,000. He yelled to his second in command, Harry Grattidge, that he should close the doors. As he did this, another tender approached. Grattidge told the tender to find another ship and pointed to the Oronsay, which was moored close by. Now the Lancastria was full. Sharp and Grattidge waited for an escort, but none came. While they waited, they heard the roar of a plane overhead. They looked up and saw a plane heading for the Oronsay. They joked that the Oronsay was targeted first because she had 2 funnels, whereas the Lancastria had 1. Their laughter didn't last long. After the plane attacked the Oronsay, another plane appeared and this time attacked them. The sound was deafening as the plane came in for the kill. The plane came in low and let 3 bombs fall. One struck near the funnel. Within minutes, the ship was ablaze and sinking fast. Everyone on board reached for their life jackets and abandoned ship. On the bridge, there was only 1 life jacket. Grattidge suggested Sharp should take it. Within 30 minutes, the Lancastria was on the bottom of the sea. While Sharp was in the water clinging to debris, planes flew overhead, machine gunning him in and trying to ignite water from the Lancastria. Sharp, covered with oil, struggled in the water for 4 hours and was about to give up when he was spotted by a rescue boat manned by one of his crew. They grabbed him and pulled him on board and took him to the Oronsay, which miraculously was still afloat. When Sharp went on board, he was reunited with Grattidge. Within an hour, the Oronsay set sail for England and made it back safely, but the ordeal was far from over. When they arrived back in England, Sharp and Grattidge were summoned to meet with senior naval officers. They were told that under no circumstances were they to talk about the sinking of the Lancastria, and that if they did, they would be prosecuted under the Official Secrets Act. They asked why. The answer was that they thought that Churchill didn't want the public to find out that men had been abandoned at Dunkirk, and the sinking of the Lancastria put a lie to the fact that no man was left behind. Sharp's war wasn't over yet. He was given 3 weeks' leave and then sent back to sea. In 1942, he was put in command of the Lusitania, another converted passenger liner. He was sent to bring back British service people and their families from the Middle East and South Africa. The Laconia was an old steamer of 20,000 tonnes and sailed alone. She sailed down Suez Canal to South Africa, and amongst her passengers were 1,800 Italian POWs. After she left Cape Town, she set sail for England up the west coast of Africa. While in Cape Town, Sharp visited an old friend. He asked if there were any U-boats operating off the west coast. He said he thought there were some. His friend asked if he was in convoy. Unfortunately, he was not. To add to Sharp's woes, he took on poor coal, which annoyed him as it emitted dark smoke, which was a giveaway for his position. Several days into the trip near Freetown on 12 September 1942, he was indeed spotted during the day by a submarine. The submarine followed him until nightfall, then attacked at 8 p.m. The submarine sank the Laconia with one torpedo. She sank in about an hour. Sharp had decided he would go down with the ship. He was joined on the bridge by his second-in-command. The two men stood together on the bridge as the Laconia sank to the bottom of the sea. The captain of the submarine, U-156, which sank the Laconia, surfaced to find out the name of the ship and capture the captain. While on the surface, he heard survivors yelling, "Help!" in Italian. He fished out several of the survivors and found to his horror he had sunk a ship carrying Axis POWs. Immediately he started a rescue. He knew this was contrary to the normal conditions of war and had to contact headquarters to get permission to continue. His commander, Admiral Donitz, agreed. The following day, with 4 lifeboats tied to the stern of the submarine, U-156 was bombed by an American plane, despite having a large red cross draped over his decks. The submarine cut the ropes to the lifeboats and submerged and left the site. In the meantime, Donitz ordered several submarines to join in the rescue, one of which was Italian. He also ordered in a French destroyer. Once the French destroyer had picked up the last survivor, Donitz sat down at his desk and wrote out an order he sent out to all submarines in the German fleet. The order, later called the Laconia Order, said that in future no submarine could rescue survivors from ships they had sunk. At the end of the war, Donitz became Hitler's successor and was arrested. He was put on trial specifically for issuing the Laconia Order. He was found guilty of war crimes and crimes against humanity and sentenced to 10 years in jail. It is sad this man is not known and doesn't even form a footnote in history. To tell his story, I have written a book about Rudolph Sharp and these thinkings titled Dunkirk Lie. It is available on Amazon.